Carpe Sus. Ben and I went hunting up in North Texas on an absolutely beautiful night. The temperature this evening is quite mild. Humidity is low. Winds are in our favor for what we think are a group of hogs that we see there in the distance with the new InfiRay AFFO AL19 that Ben has covered on his Pig Popper Texas channel. He's done an excellent review of all the features of this unit and how the menu system works, and it is actually a nice little thermal monocular. Now, the AL19 is actually in the middle of the AFFO series, which is a series of entry-level thermal units that we think are entry-level, but still quite suitable for hunting, just depending upon your conditions. And so now is a good time to talk about the levels of identification with thermal, where you have observation being when you just see something, recognition when you think you know what it is, and identification when you can see diagnostic traits to identify it. So here at the top of the hill are some cattle, or at least I know one of them is going to be a cow, the other one could be a horse, for all I know. What is important here is that we can tell that they aren't hogs and that they are not going to be targets. Whereas we have these other small objects that are going to be hogs. These are at the observation and recognition level. I don't know that you can actually tell that those are hogs. We can tell by how they're moving. They seem to be moving like hogs. However, I have seen sheep and goats move like hogs in the past. So we can't say that these are definitely hogs, but it's information good enough to go ahead and advance on. And as we move up, I see that the animals don't have any long necks on them, so that these aren't going to be sheep or goats. They definitely look like they're going to be hogs. During the stalk, we ended up passing up this one hog, and it's going to go from observation to recognition to identification. And we're passing up this hog because we're going for the rest of the group. But you can clearly see that this is going to be a pig. You can see all the features of pigs. You can see the ears, you can see the snout, you can see the short tail, you can see the shape of the animal. These are all diagnostic traits. This is definitely a hog. But we're interested in the hogs that have now moved up on the hill under the big oak tree. They're out there at about 185 yards. There is a big male that's white in this video. He's wet, chasing a sow over the top of the hill and to the backside, to the other part of the pasture. Those were going to be our primary targets, and so we're left with the hogs that remain. And so we are hopeful that maybe some of them will come on down the hill a little bit closer towards us so that we can get a shot at them, get them moved away from the cattle. But as we're waiting for that to happen, it seems like the rest of the sounder just heads on up the hill following the large boar and the sow that it was chasing, and they disappear. So we're left twiddling our thumbs again when Ben spies this hog coming in from our right. We think this is the hog that we passed up. Ben is already ready on his rifle, so I'm just going to spot for him. Alright, here we go. Pew! That shot probably impacted behind the hog as it was moving, so I'm telling him to hold off shooting right now until it clears the cows. I tell him to go ahead and shoot. He gets on the hog, leads it beautifully, and the hog goes down at 145 yards. So after a quick pat on the back, we decide that we're going to go up over the hill after the rest of the hogs. When we hear grunting from behind us, and I swear to you, it sounded like it was from only 15 or 20 yards away. I'm down on my hands and knees looking under the trees. Ben's on his rifle again. I don't get my recorder going, but I'm using my IR Hunter MKIII thermal weapon sight. That's on a Lone Star Armory TX15 Multi Purpose Carbine Enhanced. Shooting 6.5 Grendel Hornady CX 120 grain bullets loaded by Druid Hill Armory in the Starline Brass. As I can see the hog moving through the trees, I yell at Ben that it's come out of the trees, and he says, shoot it. Pew! And I drop it at 135 yards. We decide not to go after the rest of the sounder, and since we're on this hog, Ben turns on the laser light that he has on his rifle, and I'm going to follow the laser in order to find my hog. And I can do this without using the thermal. Now my rifle is unloaded. I'm carrying Ben's ammo and his magazine in my pocket, so he can't shoot me. And here you can see a comparison between the Bearing Optics Super Yoder on the left and the InfiRay AFFO AL19 on the right. Of course, during this time, Ben isn't even touching the rifle. It is just being left alone. He is hand-holding the AFFO AL19. And so I'm surprised he's actually keeping the AFFO very steady as I'm making this long walk towards my hog, occasionally waving my hand out in front of the beam of the light, just playing with the light as I'm walking along. And it's keeping me on a proper course headed right towards the pig. Now this is just a proof of concept test, but the cool thing about this setup is that we can leave the rifle in place completely disarmed, and both of us could be downrange looking for down pig or down pigs and do it completely safely, letting the laser light guide us to where the hog should be. And here I'm getting up to the point where I can turn on my headlamp and I can see the hog. Here I'm at about 100 yards, and this is the view that I have, and you can see the laser light going through the grass, passing over the hog just over the right side of the head, and there you can see the point of aim on the right hand side. So the laser is guiding me to the exact point in which the rifle is aimed. The rifle is just aimed slightly high and to the right. After getting my photograph, I continued onwards towards the hog. In the meantime, I'm walking out of focus on Ben's Bearing Optics Super Yoder, and he's not messing with that, so I'll be slightly out of focus on the left. And on the right hand side, Ben is adjusting the zoom on the InfiRay AFFO AL19 as I walk towards the hog, and I get to the hog now at 135 yards, get a picture of the hog, and then I continue on to the truck, and Ben goes to look for his hog, and I'm going to let him tell you all about that and more features on the AFFO AL19.
Alright, this ought to be a pretty easy recovery. Shot a pig out in this open field using the AL19 InfiRay scope. I got the hot spot on the ground there, clearly apparent. I'm probably 100 yards away from it, so it's red hot, pseudo color, target ID, white hot, and black hot. So not really a difficult recovery situation. Looks like a deer on the horizon. Now it is full dark right now. So if I were doing this without thermal, it'd be a little bit more challenging. Again, red alert, pseudo color, target, white hot, black hot. Just that easily.
And here you can see Ben's hog as we found it in the field.
Brass Catcher by Tactical Brass Recovery.
We came away with a 160-pound pregnant sow and a 90-pound pregnant gilt. The gilt had 5 on board, all very tiny, and the sow had 5 on board, much more developed. There will be no carpe analysis of trauma diaries for this hunt, as we didn't do a whole lot with the animals, and it was all fairly straightforward. Starting with my hog, the shot entered the right side high, mid-body. It was a quartered away shot. The shot struck the spine. The bullet continued on through the thoracic cavity, finally exiting out of the neck on the left-hand side, leaving one part of the petal behind at 14.5 inches, with a total of 15 inches of overpenetration for the rest of the bullet. Ben's round entered the left side high also, and also mid-body. This was a broadside shot. It passed through the spine going through, exited out the right side with 10 inches of overpenetration. We spied these 2 does while leaving the property on the way to the next property, where when we pulled into the gate, we saw a hog was out in the field, immediately turned around, headed down the road, got Ben set up, came driving back to the property, and as soon as I turned into the driveway, I turned off my lights. We drove in to the equipment yard area, got the truck turned at an angle, stopped where Ben could see the hog out of his window. I've scanned ahead, there's nothing for him to worry about, told him to go ahead and shoot. Pew! Neither one of us heard an impact over the sound of the truck, and the hog takes off running, eventually makes it into the next field and gets away. We did search for it, but we didn't have any luck finding it. I don't know how Ben could have missed this hog, and I don't think he did after I looked at how it was targeted. That should be a kill shot right there, and even after The bullet has left the barrel and the hot gases are leaving the muzzle. He is still on target. That bullet should have hit that hog, and that hog should have been down and dead. No doubt we were both disappointed, particularly because this was the last hog of the night. Eventually the storms moved in and we had to head south to safety. Carpe sus, my friends.